right, guys, we're back and we are here today with Matthew Stafford. See, look, there I go. Don't even ask me
Yep.
to say a name. I can't handle it. I'm already over here calling him Matt anyways. So,
Great. Don't worry about it.
all right. So, will you tell us a little bit about where you come from?
Yeah, yep. So I was born and raised in Michigan, and I was there until I was about 40. In the last 10 years, I've moved around the country trying to find a place where it'd be warm enough that I didn't have to deal with the snow anymore. So,
Right.
um, yeah, right out of high school, I started my first business. I bought the business from the guy that I was working for, and I've been self-employed ever since. So, if you do the math, 30 plus years. And yeah, 35, 37 years.
Nice.
So yeah, I've enjoyed that and wouldn't know any other way to do it. But part of my journey too is as a child, I grew up in a very violent household. And so I think what I've discovered over the last few years of my journey is that a lot of times I was chasing what I thought would make me feel better or make me good enough by building businesses and creating them, and realized no matter how much success I had, that was never the answer or the fulfilling thing. And so we teach other entrepreneurs how to be successful online. And when I started sharing my journey with them, it gave them permission to share theirs as well. And what happened was I realized that a lot of entrepreneurs have that as their background. And so I pretty much for the last 4 years went very head down into trying to figure that out. And what I came up with is, the definition of trauma is a feeling of a loss of control. And if you think about it in business, you're never in control. And so I'm like, okay, these people are choosing to live in an environment that is traumatic by nature. They probably wouldn't do that if they didn't have some sort of coping mechanism, whether it's healthy or not, but that they have figured out how to operate inside there and deal with it. And so that's really what started my journey of one, self-discovery and then helping others. Hmm.
Oh, that is
A
beautiful.
fellow problem chaser, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
That,
And if I didn't have one, I could make it up so it could sabotage it. Yeah.
the brain's fun like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just sends you on a bunch of mazes and you never know where you're going. And
Yeah.
sometimes we're smart enough, suffering enough to wake up to something's not right. The code we were taught isn't laying out how we expected it to. Um, and I've actually heard something similar about, entrepreneurs being business owners and kind of that familiar chaos in a weird way.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm curious, because you mentioned that you coach men now. Are they only men entrepreneurs? One. Two, how do you help them see how their childhoods might be shaping some of their current challenges?
Yeah, great question. It started out just men entrepreneurs because we teach um, business owners. And so that was kind of the easy way for me to start sharing. And then when I was able to put it in words that they could understand or that they could relate to, that's how it kind of happened very organically. And then over time, I realized that it was some of the most fulfilling work I do. And so I just started doing it more and more. And what I noticed is more men than women, because I've actually helped several highly driven women that are the wives of these entrepreneurs. But most men think their feelings, they don't feel their feelings. And so it's safe in their head to try to figure it out instead of feel it out. And so my process is really to get them to learn to feel and reconnect with their body.
Yeah.
And when that happens, you can make, exponential gains very quickly.
Yeah, I heard something somewhere that overthinking is underfeeling. Mm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think it's very relevant because, a lot of those environments taught us that certain feelings are okay and certain feelings aren't. And so if it's not, that doesn't make it less of an experience that we're having. So then it becomes a problem that needs to be solved, not a feeling that needs to be felt, right?
Yeah. 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 I always tell them that the biggest lie our brain tells us is I have to figure it out to be okay.
Yeah.
And because really what we have to do is we have to be okay with what is, and then we can find the
Hmm.
path or feel the path. And I always ask them, if you're in a dark room, do you just run towards the wall and hope that you're going to hit the door, or how do you get out? And they're like, I don't know. I'm like, you feel your way out, like you kind of walk and slow. And so this shadow part of yourself, the only way you're going to get out is not by running into the wall or trying to avoid it, but literally to feel your way out.
Yeah.
Uh, so going back to your childhood real quick, because that's
Sure,
and the
sure.
therapist in me can't help myself. Um, I just had a conversation earlier today with a man. No, like that. And we were talking about his abusive childhood and how, in some ways, it prepared him because the world is really cruel and brutal, and he joined the military, and the military can be a whole thing. And so now that he's away from all of that, he's struggling with this idea that um, you need to be tough and you need to be able to take on the nastiness of the world. So,
Mm.
what would you tell men about that?
Well, my opinion is that you do need to be strong and take on challenges and be the man so that you can show up as the man. So I don't I'm I've sat in the crying circles and done all of that, and I believe that you should feel your feelings and learn to do that. But I also believe that having mental toughness and grit is a very powerful thing because we are looked to be a provider and to protect and create safety. So for me, I don't think that that's a bad thing. Um, and if life is going to give you challenges, and so if you're not prepared for those challenges, I think that you would be, in more trouble than not. Yeah,
Mm.
I always say I would rather be a warrior in the garden than a gardener in the war.
I like that. Uh,
Yeah.
how do you help people find the balance, though, between the crying and the grit?
Mm.
Yeah, I would say that there's probably a tactful place and time or an appropriate time and place to do that. Nobody likes someone that's always, whining and crying about their problems because then you don't feel like you can um, get support. Yeah, I think that there's a time and a place, and it takes a little bit of situational awareness. Probably the reason why most people don't have it is because they don't have emotional regulation. And until you get that, you're probably not gonna have the appropriate conversations at the right time because you're you're more of a reaction rather than a emotionally intelligent response.
Mm.
Yeah. I think it starts to question like the word strength and what that really means. And, I'm a big Brene Brown fan, and I remember something she wrote about was a father that came up to her after a
Yeah.
presentation. You know what I'm referencing? Well, for the listeners who don't, and Alish, uh, he was like, "Why don't you study men?" And her response, like, "Oh, I only focus on women." And he said, "That's convenient." And, that hurt Brene when she heard it, but she asked him to elaborate. And he pointed to his daughters and his wife in the back. And he said, "You see those women back there? They would rather see me die on top of my white horse than cry." And it really opened up Brene's to something she wasn't really aware of. And I do think men's mental health and what it means to be a strong man is being redefined in a really healthy and profound way. Like men have emotions. That's just everyone does. That's like just basic brain science 101. to try and tell any human being to be strong is to pretend an aspect of your brain doesn't exist. That just kind of feels dumb to me. I get that it's outdated information and cultural stuff, but I know I also grew up in a household that crying was weakness. So when we talk about grit, emotional regulation, how they balance when the crying shows up, when the leadership shows up, it is an intricate balance and it is a weird dance to understand how and when. And I guess since it is so person specific, could you share how you've navigated that and understanding when it's those moments for you to be more vulnerable and emotional with yourself, and when it's those moments for you to exercise some of that grit?
Yeah, I think in one-on-one conversations, like the authenticity and radical honesty is the most important thing. And those are the only type of relationships that I try to cultivate. If someone else can't be authentic and radically honest with me, then all I've really done is developed a friendship with their persona. And
Mm,
so it's going to feel disconnected anyways. And so, yeah, I would like to think that the majority of my relationships that I can share when I don't feel good. And there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, this is affecting me emotionally and I have a boundary, or maybe we can come back to this later. And I think that there's strength in understanding your feelings rather than just word vomiting on people and calling it, oh, I'm being authentic or honest. So again, it goes back to if I'm healthy and I process my feelings on a regular basis, the chances of me being able to do that in a one-on-one situation is a lot higher than if I don't do that on a regular basis. I'm going to be in that space of when someone says something that triggers you, instead of seeing the opportunity in it, you're going to be a reactionary person. And so I really believe that there's a lot of strength in being good with yourself and understanding what your feelings mean to you, and then just having a boundary as to, if someone is creating an issue, to just say that's not okay with me.
mm,
So, can you expand on the radical honesty? Because I've heard of radical acceptance, I've heard of radical other things, but I haven't heard of radical honesty. And back in the day, I used to teach anger management classes. And what I noticed was that people would swing from being super passive to being a little aggressive in their honesty. That was the
Mhm.
word that they would use, like, oh, I'm just being honest. And I was like, still aggressive though. So for you, what is that? What does radical honesty look like?
Yeah, so one, it's not blaming anyone else for how I feel.
Mm,
So I think passive aggressive is a way for someone to project onto the other person that they're causing that. And my belief is that you can't make me feel anyway. I'm choosing to label what you said or what you did, and that's where the feeling comes from.
mhm,
And so my communication would be, when you say that, this is how I feel, not you made me feel. Or when you said that, this is how I interpreted that, and this is how it makes me feel, and let them either confirm that that's what they meant or they didn't mean it. But I would not, I would try not to. I'm not going to say that I'm perfect, but I don't project on them what I think they thought they meant, or I can ask them for clarification.
okay, that was beautiful.
and you brought up one of my like, I don't know if I'd call it a trigger, but like yes type moments of like people don't know how to communicate their emotions. For like, and you said it perfectly, like I feel versus you made me feel.
Right.
And it's so interesting when I reflect on my own growth journey and the stories I've been told about myself. And one of the biggest ones that I've shared on the podcast before is that I'm been told by so many people that I'm intimidating. And I'm very familiar with my soft, squishy inside. So I was very confused by it. And I'm like, okay, what am I? And I kept trying to figure it out. I kept trying to problem solve myself. What am I doing that's making me intimidating? And people would tell me I'm too direct. And when I hear people tell me I'm too direct, what I hear is be more confusing. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me, but okay. And then I'll be more confusing and people are like, I don't understand you. I'm like, I know, but then I'm intimidating. So like it was just this round and round circle until I heard this reel of I'm not intimidating, you're intimidated. There's a difference. I don't take up too much space. You're just used to people playing small. My light is not too bright. You're just used to dimming your own. I'm not mean nor aggressive. I'm honest and assertive, and that makes you uncomfortable. And I do not make you uncomfortable. My presence challenges your comfort. All of
Yeah.
that is yours. I will not be made to feel less so you can feel more.
Yeah.
And when I heard that, it was like fireworks and light bulbs and a parade all in my head at once. I'm like, oh my God. I'm not intimidating. They were feeling intimidated.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy you brought it up because for the listeners, we are story-oriented people. We hear people we care about telling us how they feel, but they're telling us who we are, not how they feel. And if we don't have the emotional intelligence to recognize the discrepancy in that, it's very hurtful. And that's where a lot of those disagreements start because we're told who we are versus understanding they are having this feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, I was told that a lot too growing up, or even for quite a few years, and I didn't understand it because I am very, people also say I'm very kind and gentle, but about almost 5 years ago, I have a friend who's a Navy SEAL who had been on tons of deployments and had a bunch of PTSD.
Mm.
And so he had been using plant medicine and a few other things to heal. And he took me through a MDMA experience and it was life changing. But what he did is he brought up the patterns that I had, and one of them was suffering equals strength.
Mm,
Another one was I must put barrier around connection to stay safe, and I'm the only safe place for me. So when I would develop a relationship with someone, that would no longer feel safe because of my background. And so I would put that barrier there. And that's what they're like, I'm not afraid of you, but I don't understand. It's like you're here, but you're not here. And so it was a very unconscious thing that I was doing. And it was really funny that after he told me that, I was able to let go of that or stop doing that. And people started telling me, something's different. Something like it feels better. You feel more open and all this other stuff. And I was completely unconscious, but I was creating that barrier because I thought like I'm the only safe place.
mm.
I know Alicia's going to jump on something in a second, but before you take us down that road, um, this pattern of kind of I'm the only safe space, once you became aware of it, because it is an unconscious thing,
Yeah.
you were able to let it go. Something I've witnessed with some of my coaching is people don't always understand how to let it go.
Yeah.
Can you explain how you kind of like, did it come up and you noticed the discomfort? Like, how did you experience that?
Yeah. So, saying let it go probably sounds a little easier than what it really was. I think you go through stages like first you're aware.
Hmm.
Then you create conscious competence, and then it becomes unconscious. So he made me aware of it, and then I would notice when I was doing it, and then try to clean it up with the people that I was doing that with. And then eventually I got to the point where I was just radically honest. Hey, this is how I feel, or I feel uncomfortable, or I'm very nervous, but I'm going to share anyways. And got in that habit to where there was no barrier anymore. But I mean, that was really a journey of, a year or two or three before I got to the point of unconscious competence and, where I'm at now.
Well, thank you for clarifying because I find that people like to know what to expect. And let it go is technically the right terminology. It makes perfect sense to me. And as someone who'd had to open up in my own ways, it wasn't just like, oh, okay, boop, there you go. Like it was that, oh, this, I'm noticing it, I'm experiencing the discomfort, I'm seeing how it came up already before I'm on, or when I'm unconscious to it. So I think it accurately helps people understand like it takes time. You're gonna need space. It's gonna be imperfect.
Yeah, I still, in the beginning, I know for a fact of one relationship that I ended because I couldn't stop pushing them away. And I remember having that conversation in my head, man, I'm literally doing the thing that I don't want to do.
Yeah.
And I couldn't stop myself. So it was a journey and a process of saying, yes, I see what I'm doing. Yes, I'm aware of what I'm doing and I'm still doing it, but I'm going to, keep choosing to work on it.
Yeah. And I think that's necessary. That's how you build the skill to let it go, right?
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
by getting it wrong, unfortunately, that we
Yeah.
learn.
We learn through the trial and the tribulation, not through the
Yeah.
celebration.
Yeah. All right, Alicia, go ahead.
I won't. I'm not gonna do that. I was actually curious what your I she's referencing that I get really excited about psychedelic trips and things like that people
Me
go
too.
on. I think it's so interesting.
You can totally enjoy it. I just know you're going to bite on it, just like you know I like the word curiosity and experiment.
I know, but I have other questions too. Uh, you said that your friend pointed out to you patterns were these patterns that he noticed on his own, or did you give him material for that?
Yeah, so what we did, there was 5 men, and we had 3 days in a mountain cabin, and essentially what we did was we all had a meal together the first night. Second day, he gave us the MDMA, and we sat on a or laid on a bed in front of him, and he asked us a bunch of questions. And his really it's a gift, because I would have never got out of what he was asking the insight, and he did
Mm,
it with all 5 of us. And the part of it that I'll never unsee was he gave us 3 sentences to repeat. And each man that did it, I actually went last of all 5. They couldn't remember. He would read it to them, and their mind would literally like scramble it, and they couldn't remember, and they'd get angry. A couple of them started sweating, and he would go, "That's how I know I'm right on it, is because your brain is fighting this." And I literally was like, wow, our brains are so powerful. Because the sentences that he was giving to the first guy, all 4 of the rest of us are looking at each other like, why in the world can he not say those? We could all repeat them, no problem, because it wasn't our unconscious pattern. And then the next guy, and I'm like, I've watched 4 other people struggle, so now I've got it figured out. And then
mm,
I went through the same thing, and you just can't unsee like how powerful the unconscious is. And it really that's why you need a coach. That's why you need someone to talk to, is because your brain doesn't let you see what it doesn't believe is true. So you have to have that mirror to show you that certain things are happening that you're just unaware of.
I
mm.
I love that so much.
Same.
That's so good.
Great. Great.
I do have another question.
Okay.
Um, so once you realized, and I'm mixing you and Laura's words up here, so feel free to correct me, that there's a comfort in chaos and that kind of went along with entrepreneurship. How did
Mm.
where did you take that from there? I mean, I assume you're still an entrepreneur or
Yep.
how,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah, I have a couple different businesses. So yeah, I'm still in the chaos. I just navigate it differently. I don't carry the emotional weight of all the things.
Mm.
Um, I show up, I'm very present, and I believe whatever happened, couldn't have happened any other way because it didn't. And so whatever happened yesterday, it doesn't carry forward to today, other than if there was a lesson. But I can't change the past. I can't do anything about it. And so I give it no energy anymore at all.
Wow. That's
Isn't it freeing?
Yeah. I journal that statement every single day, and I have for 2 years. Whatever happened couldn't have happened any other way because it didn't.
Yeah.
Love that. And I think that type of repetition is so important for us, you know.
Mhm.
I don't know what the sentences were that this guy was using with you, but I think all of us could probably have a couple sentences that we just sit with on repeat.
Yeah. 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 He basically gave us, and I posted it on my Facebook page like 2 days ago, the patterns that he recognized and the untruths. And then if I would flip that over, he had given us a new set of sentences to read. And those are the ones that we struggled with because our brain believed the other one and wouldn't believe the new one.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that the limiting, like the power of the unconscious, the limiting beliefs, how intricate our brain and system is at protecting ourselves based on, the protective mechanisms that we came up with as a kid, right? Like
Yeah.
that's where these things were originated. And I don't know about you guys, but I feel a lot smarter than I was when I was a kid. So I feel much more skilled to navigate the uncertainty and the chaos of life. And when I was kind of unwriting my own beliefs, I remember hearing is it a rosary that has the circle and it's a bunch of beads? Is that what it's called?
I think
Yeah.
so.
Someone used a rosary, and for each bead, they would repeat the new belief or the affirmation that they were trying to kind of integrate because our brain is rewired a lot through repetition, but also through evidence and experience. Um, so it makes a lot of sense to me. And you've talked about safety, like a sense of safety within yourself. The whole reason you had these adaptive patterns is because you weren't feeling safe. You were the
Yeah.
only safe person. So
Yep.
I'm curious a couple things about that. One, how you experience safety now versus how you experienced safety when you felt like you could only be safe in yourself. And is it like, was that truly safety or was it hiding?
Mm.
Yeah. I don't. So that's a really good question. The only way I know how to answer it is what my experience was, which is uh, I went to an emotional intelligence like seminar that was like 3 weekends. And one of the experiences that they had you act out was where you had to reenact your father and then reenact your mother. And I was probably 45, 46. And I had always thought that the reason why I struggled with relationships up until this point was because my parents said, "We love you," but then my dad beat us and beat my mom, and he said he loved her too. And so I just thought, well, I just have this weird view of love, and I don't understand. I'm broken.
Mm,
And so I had to act out my dad, and I acted angry to this person that was sitting in front of me. And then I had to act out my mom. And uh, when I got to that, it still gives me chills to even think about it. I turned around and walked over to the wall, which was about 3 feet behind me. And I was like, wow, this is really weird. My mom never hit me. And then I said, oh, and my mom never played with me. My mom never took me to school. My mom never. That was the aha moment. My
mm,
entire life, I had looked at my father being abusive as why I had these issues. And what the real issue was is that I'd never developed a healthy relationship with a woman or my mom. And so the majority of my life up until that point, I would go find people that were emotionally unavailable, trying to heal that wound. And that doesn't work good when you're the giver because eventually you feel burned out and move on. So it was really that realization was, uh-oh, there's a whole bunch more locked up in here that I don't know. And
mm,
so I went and studied. I signed up to learn how to do hypnosis because I figured if I'd learn how to, how the brain works. And one of the experiences there was we had to do what was called a safe place induction. And the other person asked me to imagine a safe place. And at this point, if you had asked me if I was happy, I was like, yeah, I was journaling every day and had just done that emotional intelligence like 3 months before and felt very aware. I wouldn't have said I didn't know what safety was at this point still. And she asked me to think of a safe place. And I'm like, I honestly don't know what that means. Can't think of one. And she's like, you can't think of any place that's safe? And I'm like, No, like I don't actually understand. It was very foreign to me.
Mm.
And so that like opened up another experience, which was a childhood, about 5 years old. I witnessed my dad. He actually locked me outside and then was being violent with my mom. And then I watched my mom run out of the house and my dad grab her and take her back in. And I had played that over like thousands of times in my head. And so that's the experience that she actually went through like a childhood regression. And I would say that was the time, that was like really when stuff's just started processing of because I understood what safety meant. And what's really cool now is I have people tell me all the time, wow, you just make me feel very safe. And
Yeah.
so it was really the one thing that I never even felt or understood is now what my purpose and most fulfilling thing I do is. So it's
Mhm.
kind of from that pain to purpose that's of safety.
I
Wow.
mean, beautiful. I couldn't agree more with a beautiful life mission, even if it wasn't necessarily chosen for you, but you found it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Couldn't
Um,
be any different because it's not.
Right.
you're right. See, it
Right.
just works that way. Um, so obviously you kind of got this awareness around your sense of safety, lack thereof, through exposing yourself to specific intentions and environments to pursue it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you have to challenge yourself and put yourself in those situations, or else your old patterns and wiring are going to overcome any good that you're doing very quickly until you challenge yourself long enough that that becomes your new way of life.
So if someone's listening and they're like, well, I don't know if I want to do that yet. I feel pretty happy. Like you even said, right? Like if you would have asked me, I would have said, I think I'm happy. If someone's listening and they're unconscious to their own lack of safety, how might they become aware of that? Or are there some like specific symptoms or similarities and behaviors that you've noticed through the work you've done with people?
Oh man, what I defined as happiness back then is not even remotely close to how happy I am now.
Mm.
Um, on a daily basis. Like I just genuinely don't have a bad day. It doesn't matter if things aren't going right. I just don't have a bad day. It's like I'm in such a good place. But I challenged myself. You know, I just got back from a dark retreat, and it was my second one in the last 6 months. And it's amazing when you remove all distraction and it's just you and your thoughts, the amount of change that will happen naturally. Because I think the majority of the reasons why we carry all this stuff from childhood forward is because we are unaware of it. We don't slow down long enough to be quiet with ourselves and see what we're thinking or see how our brain is formulating thoughts. And when you go into an environment like that, which is very difficult, you get to make peace with your thoughts and things and process a lot of emotion very quickly that you just don't get that opportunity outside of there. So yeah, I'm all for, you know, psychedelic experiences and the medicines and that. I will say I've probably done all of them and nothing has affected me like the dark, because a lot of those experiences you have a amazing epiphany, but then you have to make up a bunch of stuff about what it meant and where it was. And so if you're not really good with integration, uh, I think that it can just be like this spiritual bypass. In the dark, what I experienced and what a couple of my other mentors experienced was that your mind sees the way that it's creating its thoughts. It sees the way that, I mean, you watch yourself formulate thoughts and it just goes, oh, well, that was when I was 5. Now I'm 50. That's no longer true. And so what it felt like when I came out was every couple of weeks, like I would shed more of these limiting beliefs and I became more focused, and like our business is doing the businesses are doing way better than ever. I'm just a different person because I've I think your brain saw that, and so it doesn't believe it anymore. Now it believes what it saw as a 50-year-old instead of a 5-year-old.
So is that like a silent retreat? I don't know what a dark
Yeah,
retreat.
it's both. It's
Okay.
both.
So
Yeah,
you're
you're in a room that's so dark you can't see your hand in front of your face, and yeah, and there's it's silent. Yeah.
and how long are you in there?
The first one I did was 121 hours. The second one was 103, 104. So 5 days, the first one, 4 days, second one.
I know that might be a dumb question.
What did you say?
Do you eat?
I fasted for 71 hours the first time, and then I only had one meal the second time. So yeah, you don't need to. To be honest, it was the easiest fast I've ever done. I think a lot of the eating that we do is literally to distract us. I think we probably eat about 2/3 more than what we need to, and it's an emotionally driven thing or a distraction driven thing because we are addicted to distraction.
I can agree with that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually journaled it and I've shared it with a lot of people. I'm happy to share it with you guys and put it in your show notes. But I literally, when I got out, I journaled my experience through each of them, and it's been read by thousands of people now already. And I got a lot of comments and people reach out, so I'm happy to share those.
Wow, where did you put it?
It's in a Google Doc.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's super cool. I mean, I used to have a sensory deprivation tank and but I only spent an hour in there, maybe two. I can't imagine 100 hours in there, you know?
Yeah.
That's got to be a trippy experience.
Yeah, your brain naturally produces DMT, kind of starts doing it around the third day. So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I'm very intrigued by those retreats and things like that. I've looked into different like Buddhist style retreats with the same idea of like not speaking, I think, for like a week or 2 weeks. And just it feels like a great way to give yourself a really profound reset. And I know, Elise, you love the psychedelics, and I really don't have anything against them. Um, I just think accessing a deeper part of ourselves in general, I think is incredibly valuable. Whether it's through psychedelics or a darkness retreat or like a silent retreat, whatever. Um, and as you're sharing it, like something that you said, what you perceived as happiness be like earlier versus now is so profoundly different. Um, and I'm thinking of the listener who might not really understand what that means. And for some people like us who have like gone through things like this and we've seen the difference in experience, how would you explain what your previous understanding of happiness was and why it's different or better now?
I think I had zero connection to my body back then.
Mm,
So I think I thought I was happy. I didn't feel happy.
mm.
Now I feel happy because I'm connected to my body every day intentionally. And I think our body really is the source of truth. Most of the reason why we're not happy is because we've created a sense of safety that when we were little, it did keep us safe. But as we've gotten older, it's that bubble that we put around us has created a prison. And so I think I thought I was happy because I was thinking my feelings instead of feeling my feelings. And now I can genuinely feel happy.
So does that feel like energizing? Do you notice you're more optimistic?
I'm healthier, like healthy, way healthier now than I've ever been. My body recovers ridiculously fast. I'm very clear-headed. I'm emotionally regulated. Like there's all kinds of benefits to it. Uh, it's not, I would say you're mentally and physically fit because
Mm.
of being able to process your feelings. M- I think, we know that 80% of illness is emotionally induced. And so when you process these emotions that you've suppressed and repressed over your lifetime, it's unbelievable how much better you feel when you stop carrying that weight because you process it and let go of it.
Yeah.
You said, and I've heard other people say this, that you don't have a bad day and that you don't have the same emotional responses to stressors at work. How did that change for you? And how did you've used the word regulate, but how did you get there? Do you do like meditation? Was it the journaling for you? Was it all of the above?
Yeah, I would say all the above. I journal every day. I meditate every day. I wouldn't say that this is a new practice since November when I went in the dark retreat the first time, where I actually will sit and try to think of things that will trigger me or make me uncomfortable. And then whatever comes up, I'll just sit and observe it and not make it right or wrong or good or bad. I will literally just sit there and observe it until it kind of dissipates, and then I'll breathe into it, make it stronger, and just observe it. And eventually, I literally can't get back there again. And then I've done that. I did that in the first dark retreat for 8, 10 hours, and I've never felt the same since I came out of there, as far as like how I deal with things, because I just don't, all the stuff that I process doesn't get touched anymore. It's like it used to be a wound, and you touch it, it would make you react. Now it's just this fact of life that I can talk about and deal with. And, you know, again, I think that's why I'm regulated, is because I just don't have the wound. I've already processed the event.
So I'm curious, having done all this work, what you've shared is like two key triggers were your parents, right?
Yeah, for sure.
When you think of them now, what happens in your body?
Nothing. Yeah, nothing. I don't feel triggered at all.
I remember hearing someone talk about that and they said, "Oh, it was in the forgiveness podcast. I think you were in that one." Yeah.
Yeah.
She said, when you really forgive someone, you don't feel anything. It's
Hmm.
almost like indifference.
Yeah, just a fact of, that was a fact of my experience. Um, I shared, and I wrote it in that journal, and I shared it with you in the chat so you can have it. Um, in that first 121 hours, I literally never thought of my dad once. I just didn't. Um, and so when we got out, the host lady took me up on the side of the mountain. We watched the sunrise, and she started sharing that she had some issues with her family. And I started sharing my experience with my dad, which was about 10 years ago when he passed away.
Mm,
And I had shared the story 50 times in the last 10 years, because I had spent his last 13 days with him, kind of made peace with everything. And when I was telling her the story, I was crying like crazy, and I hadn't done that ever from
mm,
that experience. And so I put in there, like, even though I didn't know, or I didn't consciously process any of that in there, other feelings and emotions that I had to have been tied to it, because I had a 100% different experience when I was sharing that story with her that I had ever had before. And so I knew things had changed,
mm,
even things that I didn't consciously process, that was all interconnected.
mm,
I do believe everything's interconnected, and I think that's something that we don't realize. I mean, even this conversation about our bodies, everything in our bodies are interconnected. You can stub your toe and feel it in your back. So, uh, in our relationships and the energy flow, I mean, one of my favorite researchers is Dr. Dan Siegel, and he talks about how the energy flow between people also impacts our mental health and our physical health. And uh, the energy within our body impacts us. So there's all kinds of interconnections. And for me, it's a fun thing to think about, but I think it's overwhelming for a lot of people.
Sure, sure.
you said something about observing your triggers, right? Like you sit now and you like intentionally like bring them up and witness them. And my understanding of that based on like my own practices, I think about because I believe that our triggers are our teachers.
Yeah, they're an
I'll think
opportunity.
about right what triggered me and I try to understand it a little bit, but before I understand it, because we both know that can be misleading, I kind of try and catch the energy scent. Like, do I feel heavy or light? Where do I feel it? Just like sensing myself with it. Um, and then I'll try to understand it because from my experience, and this is what's so cool about body to body, is I've been able to find like tangential, I don't know if I said that word right, but associated triggers to the main trigger and been like, oh, that's why that thing feels weird too. And then I like, wait, do I feel like cleared here? Can I bring this up again? And then I go to the other one. So like I recognize that that can be completely different person to person. When you say you observe your trigger, what are you observing? Is it your thoughts? Is it your energy? Like where's your attention?
Yeah, it's not my thoughts. It's literally the feeling in my body. So if it's my shoulder feels tight, I try to feel the edges of where it feels tight, um, how tight it feels, if it's warm or cold,
Mhm.
and I'm just observing it. I'm not trying to figure it out because I realized that I can move through it way faster and process it way quicker if I'm not trying to figure it out. So I literally will just observe it until eventually it's hard to actually even notice. And then I try to breathe into it and try to make it stronger again and just kind of go through that process. And then it just never comes back. And then you'll have like these thoughts and you're like, oh, wow, that just gave me this really good idea. Or, oh, wow, that's this. It always comes after the processing, but I don't ever, I literally don't ever try to figure it out. I don't try to make it be something. I'm just noticing the feeling until it goes away.
Hmm, interesting.
That's really cool. Um, one more question, and we're coming up on time here. Um, Shoot, what the heck was my question?
Is that your question? What was my question?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
be
the
clear.
one more.
No.
No, you don't get a second one.
Um, I think it had to do with being an entrepreneur and that message that you were talking about as a kid that you had to do that in order to be enough, I guess, is kind of what you
Yeah,
were.
yeah.
How did you work through that message?
Um, Learning how to source my own love so that I feel good enough because I give it to myself instead of needing external validation.
I know you love that one, Laura.
I didn't say a word, but I completely concur.
Yeah, I think if you get good and I do it every day is the very first thing I do when I wake up is go through that practice of giving myself love and being grateful for the things that I'm good at and the things that how I show up. And I go through that every single day. And I think that fills my cup. And so when I'm dealing with other people, when you say from people to people energy, my cup is full, so I don't need anything from you. So I'm not taking from you consciously or unconsciously. And that allows you to show up as who you are too. So I think when you source your own love, you're no longer looking for external validation to feel good enough.
I agree. Um, but one of the things I've really liked that's kind of been like hidden within one of a lot of what we've been talking about is kind of the practice, right? Like I think about people understand they like it's healthy to work out. Like we hear that you should work out X amount of times or given certain prescriptions around what that looks like, right? And I know that this is something I have to talk to my clients about is like you understand the physical gym, We're talking about the mental gym, whether that's observing your energy, journaling, meditating, practicing somatic soothing, but like just doing mental practices. Like if you want to reduce your suffering, if you want to understand yourself, if you want to be able to embody your own sense of love, it's not like a pill you can take. It is
No.
truly a practice. And I think that's kind of beautiful and humbling all at the same time because it's a dedication of love to yourself in and of itself.
Yeah, yeah, I just had to learn in the way that I got better at it because I would do it for a while and then stop and do it for a while and then stop and kind of hit that upper limit and just realize that I deserve that 3 minutes. Like I deserve it. Like, and I'm not going to negotiate that out of my life. And so a lot of times I have the people that I help put one hand on their heart, one on their stomach, and do a mirror practice.
Mhm.
And I have them do it for 30 days. And if they miss a day, they get to start over.
Mm.
And so they send me a text every day, day one of 30, day two. And if they miss one, they start over. And by the end of that practice, which usually they'll mess up 2 or 3 times, because your brain will literally get you to forget it because it doesn't
Yeah.
like that you're changing. And yeah, it's just a profound difference with in their relationships and how they view themselves, like the grace that they give themselves. It's really probably if I could leave everybody with one thought, I would say that that's probably the most important thing that you could ever do is give yourself that 3 minutes every day. Every aspect of your life will change the way that you interact with yourself and other people as well.
I was just talking to a client about that earlier today, that it all comes down to our relationship with ourselves, which Laura emphasizes all the time. And, this has just been absolutely beautiful. And I'm so appreciative. Uh,
Mhm.
I remember when you guys first reached out, I was like, our podcast has nothing to do with e-commerce. I don't know how that's going to fit in. And the person
Yeah,
responded and said, "Oh no, there's a passion here as well." And I was like, "Oh, okay, then I'll hear it. I'll hear
yeah,
about it." But I
yeah.
never imagined it would be this beautiful. That is so cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Really appreciate the stuff that you've shared today.
Yeah, I'll second that. And I really appreciate something you really can't necessarily control, but the fact that you're a man advocating for other healthy men, because I understand the differences and I have a lot of opinions and we don't have time about it, but I have a great relationship with my father, so I love men.
Yeah,
And nothing makes me sadder than to see the little boys in men suffering but not knowing how to step up for themselves.
yeah,
So I'm really grateful to hear your journey through all of it, to be so candid, and hopefully some of our male listeners or female listeners can share it with their husbands and can, find a way to their own sense of freedom, their own sense of love, and their own sense of happiness, because it really is, I mean, it's life altering.
yeah. Yeah, it's transformational.
Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. Well, we will be checking out your document that you sent us, and
Mhm.
thank you again for your time and sharing your story.
Sounds good. Thank you.